I was taken when I was 21 years old. I was Romeo pimped. When I was 21, I met a 45-year-old man, and he gave me attention, told me he loved me. He listened to my stories about my problems in my family. I come from a good family. My father was a doctor. My mother was a lab assistant at UTMB, Galveston. I was already into drugs at the age of 21. I liked to party. I liked to have a good time. People in my life, during periods of my life, told me, something bad's going to happen to you, but I guess age was working against me. Oh, it's not going to happen to me. He groomed me to take me away from my parents. He would give me free drugs. He would give me attention. He would keep me away for a day, and then it turned into a few days, and then a few days turned into 5 days. And then one day, he took me to this warehouse down in Galveston. And when the drugs were gone and I wanted to go home, and I asked him it's time for you to take me home, he beat me, he raped me, and he told me that I owed him for everything that he had ever given me. And he gave me, as I lay there crying, he gave me another bag of dope and told me, don't worry, you're just going to have sex with some of my friends. And that way you'll pay off your debt. So after he beat me and he raped me, he put a chain on my leg and he chained me to the bed. The chain was definitely a scare tactic. It worked. He told me if I tried to remove it, he would beat me. And then it was just a revolving door of men coming into that warehouse. And if I didn't service them or I didn't make them happy, he would take my drugs away or he would beat me. I lived in that warehouse with him for a year and a half to almost 2 years. The chain went away after a while because I wasn't going to go home. I didn't know how to communicate with anybody what had happened to me, that all the people in my life that told me you're too fast, something bad's going to happen, it happened. And how am I supposed to tell my dad that not only one man, but many men hurt me? And so, and so, so a Romeo pimp is someone who presents as a boyfriend or a lover, or a friend who just presents himself as someone who cares about you, cares about what's happened to you, cares enough to listen to you only to use it against you. He would give me gifts, like I said, and he would take me out, and he would listen to everything I had to say. I mean, I thought I had made it. I thought I had arrived. I had a man who cared about me, who listened to me, but that wasn't the case. He was a super predator. When he took me to that warehouse and he beat me and he raped me and he put that chain on my ankle and he told me that I would have to have sex with his friends, I just couldn't believe it. It was in a warehouse down in Galveston, so he actually had like a stud farm set up. There were rooms with girls in them, and he kept me for himself. He was also a sadist. The more I cried, the more pleasure he got out of it. I can't have children today due to the abuse that I was given at his hands. He eventually got arrested for I believe he beat and raped an old woman and he robbed a convenience store, and he ended up going to prison, and I was free. But how am I supposed to go home? How was I supposed to go and tell my father the things that had happened to me. So I did what he taught me to do, because now I had a raging drug habit. Not only would he put the chain on my leg, but when I had moments of lucidity and I would cry and want to go home, he would shoot me up. So I had a raging drug habit, and I didn't have anybody I felt like I could turn to, because the cops were dirty. You know, I tricked with the preachers, I tricked with the police. So who am I supposed to run and ask for help, right? So I did what he taught me to do, and it kept me in the streets for 17 years, under bridges, behind dumpsters, never really letting anybody know what the initial victimization kept me in the streets for 17 years. I had caught a charge for under a gram residue in a pipe. I was actually transporting prostitutes for the pimp that I was working with back in 2008, and one of the ladies dropped the pipe in the back seat, so that's how I caught the charge. I tried to go to treatment because I thought in my mind that it would keep me out of jail. And while I went in treatment, I met Kathy Griffin. And for the first time in my life, I heard someone telling my story. And it gave me the courage to tell my own story. And ever since meeting her, I've been sober now for 13 years. So it wasn't the first time I had tried to get sober. 20 years ago, nobody wanted to hear anything about trafficking. It was let's talk about the drugs and your drug use. But it wasn't, let's talk about why you're using these drugs or what happened to you that caused you to form this habit and this lifestyle. When I met Katherine Griffin and I heard her tell her story, which was very similar to my own, I was able to finally tell someone what happened to me, and the phenomenon of craving left. So it was like instantaneous for me that I was finally able to tell my story, and I didn't have to use anymore. Trafficking is everywhere, from white-collared families to the poorest of families. It happens all over. I was tricked. And because of that and my inability to communicate what had happened to me, it kept me in the streets. Today I work with other survivors of human trafficking. I work off a grant from the Office for Victims of Crime, and I help house and rehabilitate survivors of human trafficking. I stay sober today by helping other women, by showing them that you don't necessarily get over what you've been through, but you can work through it, and you can get past it, and you can overcome. You need to stop the demand, the Johns. And don't get it twisted, I had many women customers as well. So women and men pay for sex on a regular basis. Instead of arresting the woman, because no woman is out there prostituting herself because she wants to. There was some kind of initial victimization that happened to her that placed her in the position that she's in today, that makes her feel that this is the only way that I know how or I can survive. So by stopping the demand, I think it would go a long way, because the women out there, the women and men, because there are men prostitutes as well, are out there because they're victims. And the people that are re-victimizing them over and over and over again are the ones that need to be gone after. As a human trafficking victim, I was brought to many a customer, and I have been brought to some hospital rooms. Just as there are trafficking going on in old folks' homes, to trafficking going on in the churches, to trafficking going on in the police stations, to trafficking going on. It's everywhere. It is everywhere. The police officer who would pull us over and exchange favors and letting me go, that's trafficking. To the preacher who would come to my hotel room and pay for sex, to city council members, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's not going to stop until somebody shines a light on it, because it's something that not many people know about. It's not talked about. The women are looked at as criminals. Like I said, that no woman wants to be out there doing what they're doing. No man wants to be out there doing what he's doing. It's what they were taught to do, and it's what they feel like they need to do to survive from an initial victimization.